Bom dia, pessoal! Hoje vamos começar com mais uma live falando sobre estudar direito no Chile. E hoje, como convidada, eu vou ter a Nina, que está finalizando, já finalizou o curso da faculdade. Ela vai explicar um pouco sobre como funciona para se tornar um advogado no Chile e o processo que ela está passando agora. Então, convido vocês para ficarem aqui conosco. A forma que a live acontece vai seguir o mesmo padrão das últimas lives, para quem já assistiu. Para quem ainda não teve a oportunidade de ver uma antes, a ideia é que eu vou fazer as perguntas em inglês, ela vai responder e a gente vai traduzindo nesse meio termo. Então, é assim que vai acontecendo. Vou pedir mais um minutinho aqui para vocês. E aí, assim que a Nina fazer a solicitação aqui, a gente já consegue começar. É feriado no Chile, inclusive. Eles tiveram as festas nesse fim de semana, como eu coloquei lá nos stories. Bom dia, Bruno. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
How are you today?
I'm good. It's a sunny day, so it's good.
Great. I'm glad to hear that. I know you guys just had some holidays in Chile, so happy holidays, I guess.
Thank you very much.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
We've been eating a lot.
That's awesome. That's a great part about holidays, right?
Yeah.
Well, Nina, if you wouldn't mind, we'd love to hear a little about you. So if you can start up by introducing yourself, that would be great.
Oh God. Okay. So actually not Nina. I don't know if you knew that. So my name's Carolina Layden, and I'm 25 years old, and I just graduated last year. I graduated from law school, and I'm studying right now for a final exam. And done some work with intellectual property. I did my thesis on traditional knowledge and intellectual property here in Chile. So that's like my area, kind of. And I'm a member of the Chilean Intellectual Property Association as well.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and translate some of that. Então, a Nina, né, o nome dela é Karina, ela tem 25 anos e ela terminou o curso de Direito no ano passado, está finalizando agora os estudos para uma prova final, que ela vai explicar daqui a pouco como acontece. E também comentou que ela trabalha com propriedade intelectual e essa é a área de especialidade dela. All right, so let's go on with the questions that I have prepared. And I was wondering, does Chile follow a common law or civil law system?
So we copy the French a lot, so it's a civil law system, but we do use some precedents, especially from the Supreme Court, when you could use it as an argument or something like that as well.
Ok. Então o Chile usa civil law, né, como eles copiaram o sistema francês, ou se inspiraram nesse sistema, e a ideia também é que eles podem usar precedentes, especialmente da Suprema Corte, como argumentos, como fundamentação para novos casos. Well, and I was wondering, what are the requirements for law school? So how does it work to get in once you finish high school?
So once you've finished high school, everybody has to take a test. So you have to take maths and language test. And if you want to enter law school, you also have to take the history test. So with that, plus your grades from school, you get some magic number, and then you just apply to all the universities you want, and then someday you'll get a message, you got in, or I don't know, you didn't. So that's
Ok, great. Então, depois do ensino médio, no Chile, você vai fazer mais um teste adicional para poder entrar na universidade, que inclui a disciplina de História, se você vai fazer o curso de Direito. Então, essas notas desses testes, juntamente com o histórico escolar do ensino médio, né, com as notas que você conseguiu obter lá no ensino médio, e aí vão resultar num número que vai determinar se você vai ser admitido ou não para a faculdade de Direito. Well, and once you're in, what classes are you required to take?
So there's a lot. You have to take, obviously, all the civil law, procedural law. You also have to take criminal law, some tax law, commercial law, constitutional law, got some fundamental rights stuff. And you can also take some elective classes as well. So that's where you can mix it up a bit, but you can't choose much. But you can study a bit of everything.
Okay, yeah. That's very similar to what we have here then. Então, no Chile, quando você entra na faculdade de Direito, né, você tem várias disciplinas obrigatórias, e aí ela comentou sobre algumas delas, né, de Direito Tributário, Direito Civil, Direito Processual, então, mais ou menos toda a base do direito, né, assim como nós temos nos outros países também, e aí você pode escolher algumas eletivas para estudar algumas outras coisas que não são necessariamente obrigatórias, né? And is intellectual property the area you mentioned that you're specializing in a mandatory one, or is it an elective one?
Oh, it's not mandatory. It's just an elective. So nice. I just did that in the last years of my studies, and that's where I kind of got stuck.
That's awesome. Então eu perguntei para ela também se propriedade intelectual era uma das matérias obrigatórias, né? Ela falou que não era obrigatória, era uma matéria eletiva, e foi aí que ela se apaixonou, né? Ela escolheu essa matéria no último ano da faculdade. All right, and then I guess this is one of your favorite classes then, but do you have any others?
Yeah, I did really like all that's like fundamental rights lessons, as well as constitutional law. So that's also something I'm very interested in, as well as indigenous law. But I think that
nice.
Really, I took
okay.
Doesn't really count.
Got it. It does. Então, sobre as matérias favoritas, né, ela falou que direitos fundamentais, direito constitucional e direito indígena foram algumas das que ela mais gostou. And is indigenous law an elective as well? Or is it a mandatory?
No, it's I think there was at some point an elective, but that's something I took when it changed. I just kind of mentioned it. It's
okay.
Have that as mandatory class. It's important.
Got it. Yeah, that's awesome, right? It's something that we don't take too much time to study, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and do you have to take during law school any, pro bono clinic, any internship, any kind of those things, like those mandatory kind of work experiences? How does that work?
So I expect it differs from different universities, but during law school, you don't actually need to do any clinic or anything. Like, it's not mandatory. That's also an elective, for example. So what you actually have to do comes after you finish law school. We'll talk about that in a second.
Ok. Então eu perguntei se tem algum estágio obrigatório, núcleo de práticas jurídicas, clínica pro bono, e ela falou que na universidade onde ela tá não tem não. E aí ela vai falar um pouco sobre isso, sobre o que acontece no Chile depois que você termina a faculdade de Direito, né, que também é algo interessante, né, e essa é a pergunta que a gente vai falar agora, né. So what are the requirements to become a lawyer or to get into law school then?
So you have to get your law school degree, of course, and then you have to do a 6 months internship for it's like a government office to provide a free legal counsel to people that can't afford it. So you have to do that for about like 6 months, and then you have to gather like the grades you get there plus the degree and send it to the Supreme Court, and there's where they review everything. Then they'll come here next week, we're going to give you the diploma. And that's when you become
Ok. Então, depois da Universidade de Direito, depois que você termina, né, você precisa fazer esse serviço obrigatório de 6 meses, então, para algum órgão oficial, para algum escritório do governo, atendendo a população que não tem condições de pagar por um advogado. E isso é obrigatório para todas as pessoas que querem se tornar um advogado. Então, depois disso, você vai juntar o seu certificado da Escola de Direito, mais um comprovante que você realizou esse certificado, mandar isso para a Suprema Corte, e depois eles vão entrar em contato com você para que você possa ir fazer o seu juramento e receber o seu diploma, então, e se tornar oficialmente um advogado. And you mentioned in the beginning, that you were doing that you were preparing for a test. So I was wondering about that too.
So to get the degree, it's not just like finish your classes and the thesis and everything. No, you have to take a test. Really, it's a big exam, and you have 3 years after you've finished law school to take that exam. And it's everything about civil law and procedural law. And it's a big thing, actually. It's like 5 professors, it's an oral exam, so it's like a big deal.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Depois que você termina todas as suas disciplinas e entrega também o seu trabalho final, né, monográfico, tem uma prova final que deve ser feita, e essa prova final tem que ser feita em até 3 anos, desde que, a partir do momento que você termina a faculdade de Direito, e trata-se de uma prova oral com 5 professores. Então essa prova vai ser só para você conseguir o grau de bacharel em Direito ainda. Então é uma coisa bem diferente. It's very different from what we have here. Here we just, finish classes and the thesis like work, and that's it. So it's impressive, and I'm sure it's not very easy.
No, I've been here more than a year and still haven't gotten to that, so it takes a long time.
Yeah, I can only imagine that you probably prepare a lot for that. Well, thanks a lot, Bruno, for watching. He just mentioned that's incredible, and it is definitely. Thanks for introducing us to each other as well, Bruno. And those are the pre-made questions I had for this, and I intended to be brief as well, so you can enjoy the holidays. But I was also wondering if you have any questions about how things work here in Brazil, and I'd be happy to answer.
So, I mean, I'm just thinking probably it's quite similar, at least on the civil law system and everything, right? Isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It is definitely it is, and even though we do use a civil law system here as well, we can use the precedents, just like you mentioned. So we will look for Supreme Courts and other courts, even local courts or maybe state courts to give further instruction to the requests that we make.
It's not mandatory. I mean, it's not. They can decide something else, right? So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what they say is that more and more they try to make all the jurisprudence, very aligned, so they don't create new precedents. And so it's something that they are very careful about in general terms. But it's not mandatory to use, those kind of arguments in your petitions and stuff like that.
I'm just like remembering, this is like really extra. There was some research done maybe 2 years ago. They studied the Supreme Court's jurisprudence, like the same, and they took like every one of the judges, and see how they decided, and it was crazy because it was just like they don't even do the same thing about the same subject all the time, so it's kind of weird.
Very interesting.
Yeah, now I think after that research, they're more like
aligned.
Yeah, is it like, oops, there's someone watching?
Wow, yeah, I'll share that in Portuguese because I think it's quite interesting. Então, a gente estava conversando, né, sobre questões jurisprudência também, né? Embora a gente seja um país de direito civil, a gente se usa também desses argumentos, né? Através dos julgados que já aconteceram. Tanto no Chile, quanto aqui no Brasil também. E aí ela estava comentando que teve uma pesquisa recente no Chile, em que eles compararam, né, julgados diferentes da Suprema Corte, e eles estavam julgando coisas muito diferentes, assim, de um tema para o outro, de uma pessoa para outra. Então, hoje em dia isso está um pouquinho mais alinhado. E aí, eu até comentando, ops, tem alguém olhando, né? Então vamos cuidar para a gente ficar mais alinhado, mais em termos, né? And Bruno just sent here a comment that I must read. So tell us about your projects, Nina.
Well, mainly right now, Bruno, it's about getting that exam done. But I've been doing a lot of research. I told you about some traditional indigenous knowledge. So I won a prize for that for my thesis. So that's why I'm of the Chilean Intellectual Property Association. And I've been writing a bit more about it, linked with climate change. So I'm supposed to get published some point in the like end of the year. Very, very ugly face. Yeah.
I can still hear you though, so if you want to finish that thought, I'll translate it then. Okay, great.
That in a magazine, I guess.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. E aí o Bruno perguntou quais projetos que a Nina está mantendo, né? Então, ela comentou que está estudando para esse exame que nós falamos, nessa prova oral que acontece lá no Chile. E além disso também, ela continua estudando direito indígena, né? E tanto que o trabalho de conclusão de curso dela foi sobre isso. E ela ganhou um prêmio por conta desse trabalho. E também continua e trabalhando com questões relacionadas à mudança climática. Então, vários projetos aí simultâneos. That's incredible. It's awesome that you're involved in so many different things. And you mentioned also that you studied indigenous law in an exchange. Is that right? Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And was it? Wow, yeah. I don't hear much about exchanges done by law school students. So that's quite incredible. It's awesome to hear that.
Yeah, it was a really incredible experience. And I also got to meet Bruno, and by extent you as well. So
right? That's just amazing. Would you mind sharing a bit about this exchange, like what you studied in and maybe like where you stayed during the time you spent in Canada?
In Toronto, winter, and it was snowing, so that part was interesting as well. So I stayed really close to the faculty at the university's apartment, and so I only had one mandatory class, and it was Rights and Reconciliation, that was Indigenous Peoples and the Law, and it was really interesting. I didn't know much about Canadian Indigenous peoples as well, so it was very it's incredible to see how similar some things are as well, and how different other things are. And I also went to audit some classes, like international criminal law and international environmental law. So it's also very interesting.
That's awesome. How long was your exchange?
So it was just for one semester. So I was there for about 4 months. So whole winter, I started getting a bit warmer.
That's incredible. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was during my summer vacations, so I just missed the whole summer. During winter, came back.
Just living 2 winters in a row. Yeah, I know how that feels. Então a Nina estava compartilhando. Go ahead. Okay.
It's really interesting to see how different law is taught as well. because here it's mainly,
Wow.
you know, a exposition class. So the teacher is up there and just talks about it, and you're like, okay, maybe you have a question. But in Canada, it was much more. You were much more involved in, you know, the process of learning. So it was really like a great experience.
Wow, that's awesome. Então a Nina também compartilhou que ela fez um intercâmbio de 6 meses no Canadá, de 4 meses no Canadá, né, por um semestre, né, que são os terms nos outros países, e lá ela estudou direito indígena. E compartilhou que essa foi uma experiência muito legal poder experimentar e entender um pouco mais quantas coisas são diferentes e quantas coisas são similares. E também comentou sobre a questão do ensino ser diferente, né, que no Chile as aulas são muito mais expositivas e ela sentiu que no Canadá as aulas eram muito tinham muito mais de uma questão envolvente com todos os alunos, então todo mundo fazia parte do processo de aprendizado. Isso é incrível, né? Eu até comentei que eu vejo que não é tão comum estudantes fazerem intercâmbio durante a graduação do curso de Direito, né? E eu acho isso incrível, né? Eu sou a pessoa que brilha o olho quando alguém fala intercâmbio, né? Então, I was just saying that my eyes start to shine when somebody says the word exchange, you know?
Yeah, it was a great experience.
I'm sure it was. So thank you so much for your time, for your willingness to, you know, join me here, to share your experience, to share some of what is going on in Chile. And, you know, I don't want to take much longer of your holiday. So if you just have some final words, you know, I'd love to hear those. Maybe some motivation for somebody who's thinking about starting law school or something like that.
I don't know if I can motivate anyone right now. Hard, but I think it's definitely worth it. Like, yeah, it's worth it. I don't know if you agree as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea, you know. É difícil, mas vale a pena.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much. And I'm sorry because I feel like I'm always, you know, cutting you off. So if you want to say something, you may go ahead.
Good. I was just saying thank you as well for having me. It's been really interesting hearing from you as well how things work in Brazil. So.
Alrighty. Well, thank you and have a wonderful Sunday then. We'll keep in touch.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.